guys, this is the one and only here on YouTube here, Heavy Metal 95 here. Once again, we got another music-related topic for today's video. So today, we're going to be talking a lot about this video. So today, we're going to be talking about how Anton Fig played drums on both of the Kiss albums. You know, the session musician who is a drummer, session drummer, who worked on the drums as well, who also became the David Letterman Show drummer, who is on the David Letterman Show. He has been collaborated with the work on artists such as Bob Dylan, Warren Zevon, as well as Peter Frampton, Robert Gordon, among others. Yeah, he worked with many recording projects with Kiss guitarist Ace Frehley as well. He's worked with others such as Mick Jagger, and he probably of the Rolling Stones, and he also worked with Sebastian Bach on the Projects thing as well. For the whole thing, because given the fact, when Kiss did the recording of the album Unmasked, well, we'll get to later on. However, when Kiss did the album Dynasty, which is their album, led to the downfall of the band Kiss. Considering for the way, because I just want to now, for the whole thing, as I wanted to come by for the whole idea, because they hired Anton Fig, who is a session drummer who played on Ace Frehley's solo album, for the whole thing, because Peter Criss did not record the other tracks, like the first 8 tracks, except Peter Criss only played Dirty Livin', because Anton Fig only recorded drums on the 8 tracks as well, because he worked really good at this, because no wonder why he worked as a session drummer, because when Kiss had the idea of recording the album Dynasty, because for anyone who has ever wondered, because yeah, this was not only the only Kiss album that Anton Fig played the rest on the album as well, because this was not the only first time, because I have never knew they did this as well. And from whatever I wanted to come across for this, because however, Anton Fig played the rest on all 11 songs on Kiss's later album Unmasked, which it was also recorded between January to March in 1980, because I'm guessing that these were the only first 2 albums from Kiss that Anton Fig played drums on this, because I have much to come by to this on my curiosity. For those who haven't been wondering, well, I didn't know about this, because just considering for the way of how if you ever want to know, both Unmasked and Dynasty were the only 2 Kiss albums that had featured Anton Fig on there, because he worked as a session drummer, because they had the idea, because Peter Criss only did one song on Dirty Livin' on the album Dynasty, when Kiss recorded the album Dynasty at the time. So the rest were, like, out of 8 songs were some of the 8 songs that were on Kiss's album Dynasty. Eight of those songs had Anton Fig on the drums. This wasn't long, just before Anton Fig has become the drummer for the David Letterman show, because this is very interesting, because I just wanted to come by for session drummers who worked as a session musician, because this was almost at the time, but this doesn't mean he's not really a new drummer for the band Kiss, no. However, even though Peter Criss was in the band Kiss back in the 70s, because, you know, when Kiss was on tour during the Dynasty tour, just considering the fact Anton Fig only works as a session musician, but he didn't want to be part of the Dynasty tour because he understands the fact Peter Criss is the drummer. Well, he was the drummer in the 70s during the Dynasty tour, as if I can now remember. Same with when Peter Criss left the band, Eric Carr joined the band Kiss. When Kiss recorded the album Unmasked, considered Anton Fig only worked, like I said, Anton Fig is a session drummer type musician, because Eric Carr was on tour with the band Kiss. And just considering, to my curiosity for this, because this has all the things to, by all for means, because Eric Carr was the drummer, which is the replacement for Peter Criss when Kiss was on the Unmasked tour, though. Yeah, because this is how you wanted to come by for drummers as replacements. Except for Anton Fig, because he was only just a session drummer on both the albums, such as Dynasty and Unmasked, which was their later album in 1980. Because this was the last Kiss album to feature Anton Fig on there, which is before Anton Fig became the drummer of the David Letterman show. Ace Frehley has stated out about how he talks with, about how there's no other drummer that had said, like, to play like Peter Criss. According to the episode on One-on-One with Mitch Laffin, when Anton Fig, who was the former drummer on the David Letterman show, has discussing about the most recent figments with Ace Frehley, Sebastian Bach, and more at the time, about his future plans of how he wanted to be on tour with Joe Bonamassa, working on Journey's Arrival album, considering he has worked on both of the Kiss albums, such as Dynasty and Unmasked, and Kiss solo album Ace Frehley back in 1978. And also Frehley's comment when considered that Anton Fig has worked with Ace Frehley at the time, with those comments of how, with the original lineup, like Ace Frehley, John Reagan, and Todd Howarth, and among others. When he talks fondly of Anton Fig and the updates for the 4 by Fate's new album, Relentless. And if you could think for more, because, yeah, this is how you wanted to come by for, although Anton Fig has been a former drummer of the David Letterman show, he has explained the fact that he has worked on with Ace Frehley on the whole recording project, as far as I can tell. Excuse me. So, as I was saying, because according to whenever I just wanted to get to my whole curiosity for this, because in the whole perspective thing for at the time, when considered that Anton Fig was originally a drummer, a session drummer, played on Kiss's albums such as Dynasty and Unmasked, including Ace Frehley's self-titled solo album in 1978, when he had to the whole thing about how his style of drumming, what he knew today for Anton Fig's love of jazz, incorporating with rock fusion style, for what the whole, considering, according to rock critics as well. Yeah, there are many things of how this was according in an interview for the whole thing, because that's how the whole curiosity for this, because he has worked with Ace Frehley on the whole recording projects in addition, and because that's how you wanted to come by, and it's a pretty good thing of how, like I said, because on this whole musical fragments of how Anton Fig, being a session drummer, has worked with Ace Frehley on Frehley's Comet in, like, later on in the mid-80s, for, as if I can now come to this, because every day's for this, and so on. Just for I can now remember. Yeah, he worked on most of Ace Frehley's albums, like Frehley's Comet, Trouble Walkin', Anomaly, Spaceman, and 10,000 Volts, which is Ace Frehley's most recent album, such as 10,000 Volts, released in 2024, because it's not clear to why of how this is not all uncommon from how I wanted to giving you when it comes to for the whole curious thing for whatever I now remember. Yep. So his most recent work with Ace Frehley that Anton Fig did was Ace Frehley's album 10,000 Volts, released in 2024, which is the most recent work he has did, among others. And he also worked with the band, he also worked with Peter Frampton on the album Rise Up in 1980, and he also worked among other artists. And he also, his most recent work with the band Europe on their album Bag of Bones, released in 2012 also. Yeah, he's worked with many artists and bands in general. So that's going to be it for my music statement topic for today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, especially if you're new to the channel. Smack the like button if you enjoyed the video. Hit the notifications bell button for more surprises. If you missed anything new, leave a comment in the comment section below if you like as well. Hit the notifications bell button for more surprises. And that's all I have and I got. This is Heavy Metal 95 signing off. Thank you for watching my video. I'm glad you liked it. Hope you enjoy it. Hope to see you soon for the next video. Be sure to stay safe and stay healthy. Hope you all have a great day. Take care. Goodbye for now.